can use the results of economic science cannot be governed by them. They leave out much too much. And with appropriate humility, this could be understood. No physicist will tell you that you ought to build a bridge just by looking at the laws of motion. There's too much else involved.
I never really considered economics a hard science. I think that economics has always had a little bit of physics envy. You know, it would like to think of itself as being entirely mathematical, entirely something that could be cooked up in ivory towers and not really tested in the real world. But frankly, as we've found in 2008, as we've just found in the midst of COVID, markets don't always act the way we think they're going to act in the way that the models predict.
Engineering is about solving problems. And so engineers are people who try to solve particular problems and do it as best as they can. Whereas science is about trying to understand the mechanisms that underlie things and so forth.
This is not black and white, you know, economists say A and policymakers do B. Reality is somewhere gray, different shades of gray, but I think it would do us a lot of good as economists if we understood and acknowledged better the world policymakers are living and operating in.
As academic economists, we're forced to usually, care about publications. Our policymakers are ultimately answerable to people and politics. And so, even if your academic economist can theoretically show or even point to some empirical evidence that a given policy would benefit society, the ability for policymakers to implement and enforce it ultimately depends on how it is received and perceived by the agents comprising the socioeconomic system.
As I said, I think the last decade we've seen a lot more practical thinking coming out of the academics, and that's good to see. But whether the academics are contributing or not, the people that are making policy, that are doing economics every day, they have no choice. They need to make decisions.
So there's an extent to which, because academics don't have, as Nassim Taleb will say, don't have skin in the game, they don't get abused by somebody who said, I followed your advice and I stood in front of TV cameras and said this.
If there is going to be a change in economics, it's probably more likely to come from the engineering side, from the policymaking institutions, than it is from the academic side, because policymakers have to face the consequences of their mistakes.